And we are live. Hello there. Apologies for being 10 seconds late. It's been that kind of day. We have got an amazing, busy show today. Russ Kane isn't here, so you're stuck with me, Neil Longy Long here, and my producer, Mr. E. Come and say hello quickly. Come on, give him a quick blast. There we go. Mr. E, making sure I don't press anything that I shouldn't, which I probably will. You coming in has made the green screen go weird. Oh, hold on. Right, quick tip. There we go. Perfect. Just a little shift, and all is well. We've got four fantastic guests on the show today. In fact, we're getting near Christmas. It is going to be a bit of a party, but we're talking about some serious stuff and stuff that is always timely as well. Not just at Christmas, maybe particularly at any time of year where there's celebrations going on or an event. So certainly timely this time of year, in my opinion, but indeed all year round. So let's, with no further ado, let's get our guests on the show. So first of all, we welcome the lovely Marie Brown. Hello to you.
Hi.
Hi, and the equally lovely Jason Archdale. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for being on. So we're going to chat with both of you, and actually by an act of serendipity, that the next guest, who I only met today, is really going to tie into what we're going to talk about in the first half an hour. So you're from an organisation called Models of Diversity. I got to know your founder, Angel Sinclair, who hopefully might jump on the call later on. I really hope, because I'd like to see Angel. I hope so. And we want to hear, what is Models of Diversity? Why was it created? Why is it important? And what have you got to do with it? So that's an awful lot to unpack in the next half an hour. So over to you guys. Go for it. Welcome to the show.
Hi. So Angel set up Models of Diversity. We're a registered charity. We've been running for over a decade, and we basically campaign for more diversity in the fashion, beauty, and media industry, so that we see more of a selection of real society than perhaps just your 6 foot blonde white perfect models that seem to be quite the norm. So even though we've seen great improvement over the last 10 years, it's really important for us that we see more diversity and inclusion and representation. So I always like to say that it's size, color, age, ability, LGBTQIA, that everyone is included. And when any of us go and pick up a magazine, that we might see someone that represents us than someone that represents maybe a very small part of society.
It's important because at its worst end of the extreme, it can be dangerous, because people put themselves up against awfully high standards, which are unachievable. But anyone can enhance what they have. Anyone can enhance their natural beauty inside and out, if you know what I mean. And I love this inclusivity. I can't say inclusivity and that's easy for me to say. Inclusivity and diversion. But it's really important, because we hear so many. I remember hearing this classic story once of someone looked at a picture of a so-called 10 out of 10 supermodel. And she said, "I wish I looked like that." And the comeback was, and it was a loving comeback, "Yeah, so does she."
Yeah.
You haven't seen her at 7 o'clock in the morning without the makeup. Everyone can look amazing and ordinary and brush up well and not, in my humble opinion.
No, absolutely.
You've taken this a lot further, obviously.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, it's all about representation. So even in advertising, marketing now, you might notice there's a lot more people who have disabilities being used. There's a lot more models of color being used, and that's what we want to see. We want a real representation of society. So yeah, it's been running for 10 years. We absolutely love what we do, and the reason we're here today was our latest project. So I think the thing is, because the charity has models in it, everyone assumes that we're just working with the beautiful people, but the simple fact is it's everyone comes under that bracket as a model of diversity, because we are all diverse and different. So the thing that we've just been working on and why we're here is for this calendar that we put together to campaign and to bring more light on male mental health and the lack of kind of awareness of it, to be honest with you, and how it's kind of shunned under the carpet. So that's something that we're working very passionate about at the moment.
Why we're going to talk a lot more about this calendar, and indeed where it can be got. And Jason, I'll come on to you in just a moment. Sorry, I'm not leaving you out. When did society get this idea that models could only be this so-called 10 out of 10 so-called? Where did they pluck this standard of perfection from, and why? And I remember that awful time in the 90s of heroin chic. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Where it was seen as cool to look like someone who had a heroin addiction. It was the whole Kate Moss thing, wasn't it? And I thought, she carried it off well. Where do we get our distorted ideas of what beautiful is, though? Why did this happen?
Well, I think everything is aspirational, and unfortunately, it's not society that choose those aspirations, is it? It's the editors, it's the designers, it's the people at the top. So if we don't have diversity shown there, and people are getting wiser to it, the designers are getting wiser that yes, their clothing may look better on a size 6 foot model. The simple fact is they're only 2% of the people that are going to be buying those clothes. So that's where we kind of need to see the difference. But if you look at the world as a whole and how fashion has changed and how body shape, back in the Roman times, for example, curvy, if you were curvy, that was their supermodel because it showed that you were abundant, that you had wealth, that,
Exactly. That's why Buddha is always portrayed as portly, because it showed abundance and wealth, didn't it? Back in those days. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think the problem is it does change. It changes all the time. And I think, since the charity started over 13 years ago, since Angels started it, and I think in fashion weeks around the world, and you were only seeing one shape, size and colour, there was no disability. And even London Fashion Week this year had, I think, only 1% of models had a noticeable disability. Now, that doesn't represent society as a whole.
No, so, and the bias was very white as well, wasn't it?
Absolutely. It's improved.
And it's fair to say the founder, Angel Sinclair, she is a lady of colour, of course.
Yes, Angel is very black and very proud. But
indeed, I hope we see her on the interview in a bit. Yeah.
Oh, I hope so too. I'm trying to wave her off of her phone, but she's
why did she start it? Was it did she just get so fed up with these limiting stereotypes, or was she seeing people being negatively affected and wanted to make a difference somehow? How did it all start?
Well, Angel's got her own, which is another show. It's another probably 15 shows, but she was on a Gokwan show back in the 90s. I don't know whether you remember. He did How to Look Good Naked, and
of course I remember that. Yeah, got to love a bit.
So we love Gok, and it's still going strong, and is still absolutely pushing more diversity, more inclusion, more representation. So Angel was on a show with him, and she was looking around as a beautiful black woman at these other curvy girls, at people with disabilities, that people you do not see, and especially in the 90s, you wouldn't see in your advertising, you wouldn't see in your marketing. And she simply thought to herself, why? Like, why am I not seeing this representation? Why does there have to be a special show to show you how to look good naked if you're not a size 6? So she went away and at her kitchen table founded Models of Diversity, and since then it's gone from strength to strength. So we've been outside the BFC back in the 90s campaigning against waif models, because some people, listen, we're not body shaming. Some people naturally, British Fashion Council. So the British Fashion Council are the ones that put together all the London Fashion Weeks, put together all the, the shows.
And what's their response to your campaigning? Are they welcoming to it, or are they like?
They have been. Caroline Rush at the BFC has been unbelievably supportive since we started.
Fantastic.
And the thing is, I think they as well are, that they don't want to see one type of society. They also, all those people that work within the BFC, they're not all supermodels. They also want to see themselves represented. They're not women in their 20s, their 40s, 50s, 60s. We've done other campaigns for ages, and we've done campaigns for size, we've done colour, LGBTQ, all these things that put into stereotypes and not shown as part of life and fashion and the industry as a whole.
Because I think whether we like it or not, diversity is a part of life. And I think there's been so much putting people in boxes of what they should be. And it's done us damage. It is damaging because it affects mental health. I'm gonna bring Jason in just a second. I was going to do some of the comments. We've got a really great audience here who always want to get involved. So let's just quick. Robert Van Buren, hello to you. I always joke that he should be an international dance music DJ with a name like that. But he's actually a horologist. He's a clockmaker, and a very good one too. Julie Voice from Texas. Howdy, Neil. Elizabeth Green from New York. Morning, boy, it's getting cold here. Barry J. Allen, good afternoon to you. And this lady's presented this show before now. Liz Saul, hello. I like this from Liz. I'm a 9 out of 10 because I'm content in my own skin. No one is perfect, and that's okay. Now, this is because Liz is very comfortable in her own skin. I know her personally, and that's a lovely thing when you reach that level of self-acceptance. And I guess you guys must really promote that as well, obviously.
Well, that's one of the real benefits, actually. So for everything that we see for social media that's a negative, there are some really good positives, and that's that it's really created an environment where natural body types and natural beauty has been highlighted as well. So it's one of the real plus sides. And I think Instagram in particular, because it's such a basis on image and images and photos, has really promoted people of a representation of everyone to be out there. And you've got influencers are real people. They're people that have started their look from the beginning, not from airbrushing, not from, and they really highlight that as well, which is so important. So,
but they're the most powerful ones of the lot, because if it is just this 2%, it's going to alienate so many people, most ordinary people. Because I'm probably average size, but I wouldn't think I'm any Brad Pitt. Well, if I'm really drunk, I might be. But do you know what I mean? I think I can never aspire to that. I can never be that, and that's fine. But unless people think it's this unachievable standard that they have to achieve, and that can't be good for us mentally. Let's bring Jason in, shall we? Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Been sitting there very, very quietly, and I don't want you to feel left out. Jason Archdale, mental health and suicide prevention speaker. That's pretty big. So tell us about the work you do and how you got involved with Models of Diversity, if you will, Jason.
I was approached by Angel from Models of Diversity, to be fair. So Angel's been following my work online. So I have an online presence on Facebook, and she's been following that work. And so she came up with the concept of the calendar shoot and approached me to be part of this because of what I talk about, which is obviously mental health and suicide prevention awareness. Because isn't it rife right now, and what's more important than that at this time of the year, especially, right?
Exactly, particularly this time of the year.
There's so many people that are looking to celebrate this time of year. There's so many people going down the rabbit hole, the dark place, right? And we've got to remember that also, that when we're drinking our beer or champagne or whatever your drink of choice is, your choice of drink is that there's somebody somewhere sat with a pain of mental illness or mental health, and that for me is the silent pain, and that for me is the silent killer. And what I mean by that is that not all pain is visible. So if somebody breaks their arm and we've got to fix that, we've got to put a pot on it, right? But somebody can go around there walking the streets with this silent pain in their head and nobody knows about it, right? And what we've got is the stigma of mental health, the stigma, and what stigma translates to. The word stigma translates to disgraced. We've got the stigma.
Interesting. Is that the literal meaning of stigma?
Yes, it's the translation of that is disgraced.
I never knew. That's interesting. So it's, in a sense, people feel in disgrace because they haven't, again, achieved these ridiculous standards of perfection of mental health. But mental health is not something you fight for, it's something you accept. We'll talk more about that later, but go on.
Yeah, exactly. But where do these standards come from? It comes from society and our peers and from social media, and then we get beat down, and our limiting beliefs and our self-worth goes through the floor, and then the what I'm going to call, for want of a better phrase, is the voices then that start playing off in your own head, and you start having this battle and going down what I call the rabbit hole.
I know what you mean. I can very much relate to this. A couple of years ago, I'm very open about it. It's how I got involved in this. I had a dip in mental health. It was just everything going at once. And I found, particularly as a guy, I thought I should have it all sorted, worked out. I mean, I'm over 50, for goodness sake. All sorted, all worked out, know all the answers all the time perfectly, in a situation which I'd never encountered before. And there wasn't much help around, and they didn't seem to be any answers. And eventually, it did my head in. Not in small part because I thought I should have the answers. There's a comedy hand appearing on your shoulder. This is very funny. Live radio, I love it. Can we bring her in to say hello? Is that all right, live?
Yes.
Hello, sweetheart. What's your name?
Remy.
Remy, lots of love and a very happy Christmas to you.
Sorry, she didn't hear you.
I said lots of love and a very happy Christmas to you.
Christmas to everyone.
Happy Christmas.
You're very welcome to stay in the broadcast if you want to, sweetheart.
Thank you, Bill. Sorry.
So yeah, I just felt I had to. It was these silly standards that I'd put on myself, and we see it everywhere. We see it in the workplace where young people think they have to hit the ground running. Standards of so-called beauty, which we're discussing with Maria and all that sort of thing. But anyway, I digress. Well, I don't digress. But back to you, Jason.
And so it's because of these. It's because of these standards that we put so much pressure on ourselves, and we can't live up to this, that we then go down this rabbit hole. But then what we're missing is actually the tools and the coping strategies to deal with this.
Right.
And if you can imagine, last year alone, 8 million people were prescribed antidepressants. That's a shocking figure. Right?
That's ridiculous.
So people are walking into doctor's surgeries, and this is my rant. Okay, so I do rant because I think about things if I feel it's rant worthy.
Rant
People
away, sir.
People are walking into doctor's surgeries, to GP surgeries, and quite rightly, if people need antidepressants to help them get through the day, I'm not poo-pooing that. If people need antidepressants to get through the day, fair enough, then take them, because I was on them as well. But
Me too.
What is missing is the education to GP surgeries. It's too easy just to write out a prescription and say, there you go, go away.
Hallelujah. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's deal with what's going on at the root cause inside.
Yes, I agree. And that's why conversations like this are so important. But it's not the GP's fault. But when I've had my battles with depression, which I have, it's, we'll try a different antidepressant, but nowhere really. The closest I get to learning strategies, and there's a bloody long waiting list, is for CBT. But it's not, and CBT is great, cognitive behavioral therapy, but there's an awful lot more out there. And I think conversations like this are really almost forcing our hand as a society to wake up and say, look, we haven't got all the answers. A pill for every ill is not the best solution. And for my money, antidepressants are if you're in a really low place, I liken them to, if a car's died, it's like the jump leads for the car to get the engine going. But once the engine's going, you don't need the jump leads anymore. You wouldn't need the antidepressants once you're getting back into balance. And this is where the gap is, isn't it? Right?
What a great analogy that was. And what I tend to say about the antidepressants is that it's like putting a sticking plaster on an open wound. Okay, the wound is eventually going to open up again, right? Because we're not dealing with the root cause of what's going on. And we've got to do this. So obviously I went down my rabbit hole. I went to my dark place, and I went through the dark night of the soul, and eventually found all my tools and strategies and coping mechanisms, which is what I talk about now to help people that are going through.
And we'd love to hear them in a minute, by the way.
Yeah. So I went through all of this, and over a period of time, I realised that I just went through a process of getting myself out of this. But my own personal campaign now, which is what I did with models of diversity as well as part of my part to play in the shoe, is to say to men or people in general, is that it's okay to not be okay, to drop that stigma. And the first tool of anything that you should do is know that you must reach out. You must tell somebody that you're not okay. Because if you don't reach out, nobody knows, and you cannot get that help. And the first time I reached out, eventually, when I plucked up the courage to do that, everything started to open up. Very, very slowly, but it opened up. So you must reach out. It is so important to reach out.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Can I just interrupt really quickly, because it's
Please, Marie, jump in.
Well, it's interesting that both of you are so openly talking about your mental health, but this is one of the reasons that the calendar actually came about, because when we were looking through and women, I also have suffered with my mental health. I know Angel's had struggles, but women talk. And the problem is that men are less likely to access any psychological therapists. And in fact, I think it's only 36% referrals from the NHS and male.
Because I touched on this earlier, you're right. Men think they should have all the answers.
Absolutely.
Actually, I was having this conversation literally an hour ago, and we're going to meet those people who I met an hour ago. It's very serendipitous, and it all ties in. And on the show before, where I'd stood in for Russ when he wasn't well, we were talking about the word. Anytime that you hear the word "should," that's when we're getting into choppy waters. Men should have all the answers. We should, ought to, and must are very different from want to, or desire to, or choose to. And there's a real distinction that needs to be made there, because wellness comes from wanting, desire, and choosing. Not should or must. I should be better at my mental health is yet another cross to bear, that you can't even succeed at being mentally bloody healthy.
Well, the problem is,
and then it comes back to that nasty little voice that says you can't even succeed at being mentally healthy. You're a bloody loser. It'd be better off if you weren't here. Says the inner troll. And it is bullshit. It's just classic symptoms of depression. It's not true. But when you're in it, it feels so bloody real, doesn't it?
Well, and also you've got to remember, we've got these really outdated expectations and traditional gender roles where, just like you said,
hugely
to be the breadwinners, they've got to be strong, they've got to be dominant. You don't show your fears. And this is something that we're all really bad at. But also in the Black community as well, even more so. When we were doing the calendar, we obviously, a diverse charity, we had models from all different backgrounds, and our models that were of colour, it was even harder. It was even less expected for them to talk out. It's even less expected that they have to be hard, and that's it. So we did a load of research, you know.
And if you're hard on yourself, you're actually hard on other people as well. It's almost like a chain of pain. And I'd just love to go back in history to the point where this dumb idea came into the human consciousness that we were supposed to be that way.
So would I, because let me tell you, I hate the whole thing about me having to be doing the washing and cleaning at home. Do you know what I mean? It's the stereotypes.
Well, nobody likes that, to be fair. But you're right. Yes, absolutely right.
So the stereotypes go both ways, but the difference is that women are expected to be emotional. Women are expected to speak their feelings. You know, it may be frowned upon, like, oh God, here she goes, she's over emotional, but at least we have that. So when we do go over emotional, when we do talk about our feelings, it's not frowned upon. And the whole point of the calendar and the whole point of everything that we do is to take away that stigma and to make it that men can speak openly about their mental health, and also give them the branches where they can go to do that as well.
I want to know all about the calendar. I'm just going to come back to Jason for a second because he wants to say something. Also, I'd like to know your second technique. The first one being reach out, and I couldn't agree more. And what was the second technique you used to help you get back to mental balance, Jason?
The thing is there with what we're talking about and what Marie was just saying there, because but it's okay for women to talk about their problems, right? And this is why that 75% of all registered suicides are male. 75%. What about the suicides that are not registered? The suicides that go under the radar that we don't know about people. So there's 800,000 people roughly around the world that die from suicide every year. 800,000, that's one person every 40 seconds. One person every 40 seconds dies of suicide, because you can relate that to the stigma of what's going on.
That's 22 since we've been on. That puts it in stark perspective.
And also the other thing is suicide is the largest cause of death for men under 50.
Exactly.
So that is, you know, you think about all the crazy stuff you did when you were in your 20s, 30s, 40s. Suicide is the largest form of death for people under 50.
I think going back to what you asked me about what the second tool was, to be fair, and we haven't got time within all this, but I do have
you're very welcome both to come back, by the way. This is not a one-shot thing. We'd love to have you both back.
I always say, because there's very many tools that we can use there once we've actually reached out to somebody that can help us, but there's very many tools.
That is the first step, just saying help, isn't it?
Yeah, to reach out. The second step is then to decide. And it's so easy. It's not like you have to go to university to work this out. You just have to know that the next step is to decide, my life is in shit state right now, so I need to change my life. All right, I need to change my life. So that's making the decision. You don't necessarily know from that point on of making that decision how your life will change or how to do it. But by reaching out and making the decision to change, the universe will then bring the situation, circumstances, and right people into your life.
Yeah, I love the way you say that, because I'm certainly not averse to talking about the universe and spiritual things on the show. Not at all. And it does seem that when you make the decision, you have to make the decision first. And they call it in the sort of law of attraction world, they call it the curse of cows. But I don't know how. You don't need to know how. You just you don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step.
What's happening is, because what we've got to do is change that vibration. Now, currently, you might be in a vibration of depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. If you raise, so you're going to continue getting that, right? So you've got to raise your vibration to a point of, I'm going to change my life. I want to visualize all this kind of stuff, and there's more work to do with that. And then what happens is that energy then goes out, and that's science, not woo-woo, right? That then comes back to you, right? So you've got to change that energy of vibration, or that vibrational energy that you're in. So reaching out is important, and then deciding that my life is a mess right now, and be brutally honest with yourself. My life is a mess and I need to change it, but I don't know how to do it, but I know I'm going to do it. And there's no shame in admitting your life is a mess. It's what the phrase I like to use. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Exactly. But responsibility. When I did some NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, I had a really good definition of responsibility. They put a hyphen in the middle of it, because the whole thing of when you're stuck in depression, your world seems very small. Yeah. With NLP, it's a question of helping the client you're working with see a bigger picture, see a bigger map, more choices. And the more choices you've got, and this is quite clever, I didn't think of this, I wish I did, you have more response ability, more ability to respond. So it's teaching
rather than reacting the same all over and over again. It's breaking those patterns. They call it a pattern break in NLP. And breaking this pattern is the most worthy pattern of the lot.
Well, you see, what we do, because your brain continually does whatever we teach it to do, right? And that's basically through thought patterns. So so what's a belief? A belief is just a thought that we tell ourselves over again. So our brain thinks it's the normal thing. And this is neuroplasticity, right? It's just it's retraining the brain to do a different pattern. So we've got to retrain our brain through different thought processes. And I think that's what we're talking about through models of diversity and through what we're doing out there, what every great person is doing about this awareness is to start talking about a different story about your life, right? Because we're stuck in this
tell a different story. Yeah.
Tell
I think it's
go on, Marie.
I was just going to say, I think it's also really important to say, because as you know, as I know, as Jason knows, when you are in the depths of that depression, it's hard. As much as we can say, reach out for help, ask, tell, we all know that you're not going to do it. And we even know from, that I've just forgotten his name, the guy that committed suicide last week or at the beginning of this week, who's on Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh, the Twitch guy.
Looks from the outside like his life is amazing. And I think that's why the other thing that's really important to say is, if you are worried about someone else's mental health, or if you've got any doubts, ask, put feelers out. If you haven't heard from someone for a little while, and usually they're in touch all the time, I think it's really important as well that we all take responsibility for the people around us. And I don't mean in the same way that you're ever to blame for what happens to those around you, but there is nothing wrong with, are you all right? Or what's going on?
No, I know what you mean. The only caveat I would put is put your own oxygen mask on before you help another. You can't give from an empty cup.
Exactly.
But there's a wonderful documentary on, I think it's on iPlayer, and it's a guy called Roman Kemp who presents the Capital Breakfast Show.
Yes.
Have you seen it? It's one of the best mental health documentaries, and I'd make it recommended watching in every school, every 100%. Mental health professional. I would make it recommended part of the curriculum. I really would. And what he says, Marie, you're right. And he talks about asking twice. You're right, and you go, yeah, but it's checking. It's going, yeah, but are you? And it's just that double.
Oh, that makes me go cold.
Double check. Yeah. So let's hear about the calendar. I'm fascinated about this. Tell us more.
So we've done calendars before, and every year we kind of focus on something, and every year that we do it as well, it's not about models. It's about the individual and their journey and where they've come from. And a lot of times we use people that have overcome their own personal journey. And so for the mental health and men, we were really aware. We got the statistics, and one of our sponsors, Lynn Crilly, she's part of the scaffolding company, CC Scaffolding Surrey Limited, and she also found that she gave us a statistic about scaffolders and men in the building industry and how often they commit suicide, and it shocked us, and it sent us on a spiral into research on mental health, how it affects them. So we decided to put together this calendar. We had an amazing photographer, Amanda Akakia, who is an award-winning photographer, and we reached out to our community on models of diversity through social media. And rather than going directly to models or we were like, what's your story? And why do you think you would like to highlight mental health? And we had the most amazing people come forward. Obviously, we've got Jason there. We've got, I'm going to give you some of the names. We've got Josh Landon, who's a Team GB Paralympic skier, who had his own journey with mental health, who sadly in his 20s became paralyzed after jumping in a pool, but has turned his life around, has had his own journey. Adam Pearson, who you may know from Celebrity MasterChef, he's presented several documentaries. He's been in film with Scarlett Johansson. He's been bullied throughout his life because of a facial disformity, and he is just an amazing ambassador for everything that is about loving yourself and getting over mental health. And like you said, the law of attraction, manifesting, having that mindset, that positive mindset that turns it all around.
Because put bluntly, if we're talking manifesting, the universe doesn't play favorites. The universe doesn't say only pretty people have got the power to manifest. We're all equal in that sense. We all have the power to manifest.
And this is why as well, it's really important that we work on our mindset and that we talk about this and that we get out there. One of the guys, Jackson, who was there, he's actually, was a female and has trans to male, and he works within the prison industry. So it was very male dominated, stereotypical industry. And he's now obviously he's now transgender, and he's gone back into the prison system as a man to speak about mental health, to speak about judgment, to speak about.
How is he received in that environment?
Do you know what? First of all, what an amazing man he is. His everything about him I adore, but he has been received so well, and I think it's because he comes from a place of education rather than judgment. And he really
this is an idea that's time has, thank God, finally come, and I'm so glad we're having conversations like this. Where can people get this calendar? Can I put a link up on the screen, or is it
absolutely
just the
so if they go on to modelsofdiversity.org, there is actually a /calendar. In fact, go straight through to it. But even if you don't do that, just go straight through to the website, and you can there's a calendar section that you can go straight through. But I will just tell you this quote from Jackson, which I love, which is that people are brought up to believe that being courageous is brave and that being vulnerable is weak. However, vulnerability is defined as feeling at risk, uncertain, and emotionally exposed. And there isn't a single act of courage that exists without those three things. And that to me was just everything about talking.
Are you a fan of Brené Brown?
I don't know him. Gone.
Brené Brown. Oh, she is the absolute epitome of everything you just said. That quote sums up her whole body of work. Read her stuff. You'd love it if you haven't heard of her.
Oh my God, I'm going to write it down. I will.
Brené, B-R-E-N-E Brown. Brené Brown. She's done a TED talk. It's really, really worth watching. Thank you both. Can we have you both back? Because I think we could do 20 shows on this. We want to do more tools and techniques for people to manage that and be successful with their mental health and their journey back. So please come on and share tools. We can all talk about the problem. We want to also get a lot of the solution on as well. And people like you, Jason, who are testament, to what is possible, that you've turned your life around, you admitted it to yourself without shame that you needed help, and you did what was necessary to do it, and here's the result, and to see that, fair play to you, brother, and to you, Marie, as well. Yes.
I think what we've got to look at is that it's okay to not be okay, but then once you've made the decision to go out there, is then find the tools to help you move forward, right?
To be okay. It's just a question of admitting and knowing where your starting point is, and that too is okay. It's allowed, right?
Yeah, and we're not talking about groundbreaking, becoming a millionaire, where some might do, right? This is just about becoming fulfilled in your life, right? What does happiness mean? Well, happiness means just being fulfilled. So how do we get there? What tools can we use? So
what floats your boat?
Yeah, there's an abundance of tools we can use, and it's obviously not for this show right now, but we can do that. And
will you come back on in the future?
Yes, for sure.
Thank you. And will you come on as well, Marie?
Oh, absolutely. And can I just say as well, Neil, if everyone does give us a follow on social media at Models of Diversity, and there's a link direct through to that to follow the calendar. And also, if you are having any issues with mental health, or if you do need help and you want someone to reach out to, we are there for you. And there is also Calm, which is an amazing charity, the Samaritans, and there's Men's Health Forum as well, which will all help you.
Brilliant. I would love to invite, and if you have to dash off, that's fine. But I'd love to invite you to stay for the rest of the show. There's a comedy thing appearing in the background. What is that? What was that?
This is my. She's back. She's back to do her own.
I thought I saw sort of it looked like a comedy ostrich or something in the background. I'm like, this is turning into a pantomime.
You missed the dancing and everything. I'm not going to lie. I've had a live show while we've been doing this. 2 live shows.
Oh, we should have done it on screen. For the joy of Christmas. Come and give us one more wave, little one. Come on.
One more wave.
Come and wish everyone a happy Christmas.
Thank you very much. Say happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bless your heart. But do stick around, both of you, and we will definitely get you back on the show. I'm going to bring in, this is a colleague of mine in the radio world. We've got Jackie Carr and a lady that I met this morning. This is Jane Upson. Hello, both of you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello. Right, Marie's muted herself. That's absolutely fine. Marie, you're welcome to come back in at any point. You've got the control at your end. Jackie Carr, I can hear you. Hello to you, and Jane Upson as well. Backstory: Jackie works with me at a radio station called Radio Jackie, which is why I'm the breakfast show presenter. I do other stuff as well as this. And Jane Upson, we've lost Jane. Right, Jackie, I'm going to throw it to you and give us the whole story of just what the hell's going on here. it's all tied in so brilliantly, because the conversation that you and I had in that coffee shop about an hour ago, we've literally been repeating it with the guest this morning, which just shows how timely and important this is. So go ahead, Jackie, the forum's yours.
Well, I interviewed Jane about a year ago after her nephew had taken his own life, very sadly. I've also had I've also had experience in my own family as well. So I interviewed her, and it was a lovely interview. We got on very well. And she's a great person. She's bounced back from the loss of her nephew by creating an initiative, and it's going to be called Broadcast from the Blue Bench. And we're going to run a series of podcasts with a lot of people, some medical professionals, people who've lost a loved one to suicide, people who've considered it themselves, and try and bring their experiences into the podcast with a happy ending, with a view that, you know, you can recover, you can move on from this. And Jane is she's been great at networking and got lots of people on board. So I'm just there really to help her along and host a podcast. And that's where we're at so far. So I talked this morning with you, it's great.
Well, yeah, and we met, and I said, you know, I'm looking for a guest this morning, and this is absolutely perfect. I hope she's not having technical issues, because I'd love to talk to her personally about it. But it's, I mean, she's thought about it from every single conceivable angle. It's one of those ideas that is brilliantly thought through. And it could be the start of something quite amazing, not only in honor of, you know, the man that tragically lost his life, but it can really almost become a hub of well-being, if you like, for other people, you know, literally being part of the solution. Let's try and bring her in again. Hello, Jane. Are we a bit tech issue-y? It's not your fault. It does happen from time to time. Tell you what, hello, Jane. Hello. Can you hear me? Hello. How are you?
Yeah, about. I can.
Okay.
I'm fine. Fine, thank you. Nice
great.
to meet you this morning.
It was lovely to. Well, we must stop meeting like this. People will start to talk. But it's absolutely lovely to have you on. The connection's a bit dodgy, but what we do if you start cutting out, I'm sure Jackie will jump in and fill in the blanks. But
Yeah, I'm still here.
Tell us about your initiative and what we talked about basically an hour ago. Oh, bum. Jackie, can you still hear me clearly?
I'm still here. Yeah, I can still hear you, Neil. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Maybe we can fill in the blanks here. It's going to be a series. It's going to be a podcast live from the Blue.
Oh, she's here. Hello, Jane.
I really wanted to get this on as well. Never mind. A podcast live from the Blue Bench. Why blue? What's the significance of a blue bench? Basically, it's putting a bench up. It's got celebrity endorsement. It could be a well-being hub, and there will be a series of podcasts there which people can tune into. And rather like the Models of Diversity calendar, where people are sharing their journey back to mental health, this is other people's journeys as well, and the struggles they've had, because it can affect anybody. The whole thing with the modelling industry, if you look beautiful and sparkly and perfect, your life is perfect, and everyone else isn't from the people watching, and that's nonsense as well. So it just reinforces the message in this case that it can affect anybody. It doesn't matter how much of a good job you got, mental health or lack of it can literally affect anybody, right? Over to you, Jackie, for a bit.
Well, you're right. Mental health can affect everybody. It can affect you directly or indirectly. And the whole idea of the podcast is to talk about mental health, to talk about how, if you've had suicide as a family member or a friend, or if you considered it yourself, how to really erase the stigma that, you know, anybody could go down that path. And the idea of the podcast is to speak to people who have recovered from that, including Jane herself. And she's used this initiative as a sort of a forward momentum into her life, to create something good out of her loss. And that's what she's doing. She's great at networking. She's speaking to loads of people. Stephen Fry's come on board with lots and lots of people.
Adam Kay as well.
Great story.
Yeah, Adam Kay from This Is Gonna Hurt.
Yeah, he's going to be there. He's going to be actually there at the opening.
So he's going to be at the
people.
opening. So the idea is it's going to be a blue bench. Blue is significant because the lad that lost his life, he was a police officer. We get the blue connection, and blue can also mean depressed as well, getting the blues. And there will be a place for leaflets under the bench and a QR code to scan, but leaflets as well. So people can take leaflets, listen to the podcast, reach out, know they're not alone, and daffodils are involved as well. What's the daffodil connection here?
Is Jane there? No. Well, the daffodils are all
She's
sorts
not,
of
we've lost her.
spring. Yeah, daffodils are a lovely spring flower, and I think the idea of the daffodils is we're going to spring in. You spring into life when something like this happens to you, to allow you to spring, to have new roots, new beginnings, and new starts, to create something better than what you've experienced, to improve.
It's actually a
on
really
this.
timely day to talk about this because it is the shortest day, and I've got a pagan
It
friend who's
is.
celebrating the solstice. And in my understanding of paganism, it's all about very earth-based. It's all about the new beginnings and the new shoots and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of wisdom in it. So good timely day to be talking about it. So there's going to be a bunch of pre-promotion for this, and then the podcast is going to be launched in the spring. And there'll be just plenty of episodes which people can access either from visiting what's going to become this community hub with the daffodils and the blue bench, or QR scanning it under there. So if people just walk past or happen to hear about it or watch this video or watch anywhere else, they can know there is a resource to go to. And even if you don't have internet access, if you've got the QR code scanner, if you haven't got a phone, you can pick up a leaflet, listen to the podcast, and at the very least know that you are far from alone, and indeed receive potential solutions, because the people there will be sharing their story, just like Jason has today. He's a living testament that you can be better, and contribute to the solution after you turn your own healing corner. Which
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think it's a chance to say also. She said
I've got a text here from Jane. She says, "Sorry, I lost you. Happy for Jackie to respond for me." That's what we do now, because it's just technical gremlins. But what I will do is get Jane on definitely nearer the time, and we'll have a bit more time to plan. It was only done in the last half an hour. Actually, we spontaneously did this. So if you don't mind being her spokesperson, Jackie, over to you.
No, not at all. Far away.
So what's the timeline of all of this?
Well, we're going to starting the pod. I've interviewed all the people that are going to do a podcast because I really wanted to get their story. I wanted them to talk to me very naturally and to find that sort of spark of light at the end of their story that we could use in the podcast, because we want these podcasts, although they're about a very sad subject, to give somebody a joyous feeling at the end of it, to think there is light at the end of the tunnel, there is hope.
Yes.
And that's the most important thing. So I've spoken to all of them, and I've managed to sort of to find that spark, and it involves sort of quite a long half-an-hour conversation on a Zoom with them. But at the end of each one, I did actually find that, and that's what I was really pleased about. Some of the
You did say something very significant. You did say something very significant in the coffee shop, which where we had the meeting an hour ago, which I picked up on, Jackie, and that was you. And fair play to your brilliant journalistic skills, because journalists in the best way prod, and they look for the, not only look for the story, but in this case, looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. And you found it in one of the interviewees, and it was the most simple thing. That's what stuck out for me the most. It was a simple, everyday, doable thing. It wasn't being a genius and understanding neurochemistry and neurotransmitters and law of attraction, whatever. No, it was so simple, everyday, and doable. And you go ahead and tell the story. You don't have to say exactly what it was.
I was talking to him, and we had the cameras on, and his face was very sad, and he felt his life had been sad. He'd suffered from epilepsy, and had suicidal thoughts. Not actually gone as far as he said. I could have been standing on a station platform on a very low day and thought, well, how easy it would be just to throw myself under a train. And so I talked him through that. And then he said, recently I've been seeing a psychotherapist, and they've given me the idea that when I have a day when I'm feeling very low, to create myself a little project to do, but something that I can complete. So, excuse me, in his terms, he said, I'd get up in the morning and think, there's nothing to my day, there's nothing I can do, but I'll rearrange my bookshelf, or I'll go and plant something in the garden, but a task that he could complete. And during the course of his conversation, his face changed from melancholy to bright and breezy and smiling. I said to him, that's it. This is the first time you've smiled, and this is your life. This is your, project going forward. And that was really quite revealing.
Yeah. But it was just simple and doable. Must do some of the comments here. I'm going to swap you and me, Jackie, because otherwise
Okay.
it'll make you disappear, and it seems ever so rude. It won't swap. There we go. I'm now at the
There you
bottom. Right, so I'll cover my ugly mug up. Hattie Retroge. I first modelled at age 76. Wow. Doesn't this just tie into what we were talking about earlier, Jason? I've never had plastic surgery and never will. My natural beauty inspires women of all ages. There is beauty at every age. I love your hashtag at Hattitudes1. I'm loving you're rocking that attitude with style and sass, Hattie. Well done. Russ Kane, who is the co-founder of Men's Radio. I'm filling in for him today. Nicely done, Neil. I wish I could be back on my show, but trust me, an hour of continual coughing doesn't make great broadcasting, allegedly. It'll be one of your best, Russ, I promise you. Asa Don Brown, who Jackie and Jason, to make the introductions, is very high up in the American psychological community and always has some really wise words on what we're talking about. And he was agreeing with you earlier, Jason, saying the messages we choose to entertain have a major bearing on our lives. Medications are appropriate in some cases, but should be the last resort than the first vehicle towards health and happiness. And that's coming from a mental health professional who also says research has indicated that men are less willing to discuss feelings of suicide than their counterparts. I'm showing you mean their female counterparts. Also agreeing with something Marie said, absolutely. Kimmy Lashmar says, what documentary where? It's on BBC iPlayer, Kimmy, and if you Google Roman Kemp mental health documentary, it will come up, and it's something that Roman Kemp did, because he admitted in the documentary he's had some struggles with his mental health, and he's got a high-profile nationwide radio show, so you'd think everyone's life is perfect, but of course that's not the message of this show. And he did this lovely documentary, and as I said earlier, I would make it recommended viewing for every mental health professional, and I would show it in every school as well. Sue Sleet says part of the problem is what they've been told about themselves as a child under 7. It's set in concrete as a truth. Now this truth raises it, I'm doing inverted commas there, this truth raises itself when a teenager or adult becomes depressed, making the situation worse. And that's because we're in our very early years, we don't really have that the cognitive, if you like, in hypnosis they bypass the conscious mind, don't they, and make the subconscious mind very susceptible to the positive suggestions. Hopefully that's how it works. And we don't have that conscious mind, that critical factor. From the ages of 0 to 7, we're like a sponge, and we absorb everything, the people, the vibes around us, and take it on as our own. So that's right, Sue. But the good news is there are treatments and therapies and discussions like this that can start to break that conditioning pattern. Not all conditioning is bad, of course, but some needs updating at the very least. Kimmy Lashmar, this needs to be more than an hour. Everyone talking so fast to get important points across. We're going to get them back. We're going to get them back, Kimmy. We're going to get all these wonderful people back, including Jane, who couldn't make it today because of the tech. Jackie, you're always welcome back to talk about this more. We'll get you back when the podcast launches as well to talk about more. And Jason and Marie as well. Kimmy says, lovely, thanks. Not too rushed, loud or busy. Time of year for a birthday. Oh, that's responding to a private message. Ramsey says the root cause of many people's mental health is their economic situation. With the current economy, it's inevitable that more and more people will have MH issues. The government really consider collective mental health when forming their policies. Yeah, and that's more than an hour. We could talk about that forever, couldn't we? Russ Kane says, we've reached out endlessly to the Samaritans and to Calm. Just saying, NIMBY. This is why all your support to MRS over the globe is wonderful and essential. NIMBY is not in my backyard, isn't it? As my mum used to say, if you want something done, do it yourself. And Asa Don Brown agreeing. One more. Oh, it's talking about Radio Jackie. So you're a freelance journalist, aren't you, Jackie? If people want to contact you for your brilliant skills, where's your cyber home?
You can find me on LinkedIn whenever you like. I'm always on LinkedIn, Jacqueline Carr. I actually podcast. I put up lots of my interviews that I do there. A lot of my interviews, I just love this side of my journal. It's talking to community people who've done good things. So I've spoken to loads of people who've had initiatives, food initiatives, waste, everything, and they're all sort of good luck stories. They're good stories about people who've taken time out of their daily lives to help other people. And I think it's the side of journalism that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah, it's the nice side, isn't it? Oh God, how do I spell Jacqueline? Jaqque.
Jacque. Ueline. Jacqueline Kerr, Kerr. You can find me on LinkedIn.
J-A-C-Q-U.
Ueline.
Now I feel a complete bug. There we go.
Jacqueline. So yeah, as is Jacqueline Onassis. Actually, Radio Jackie was named after Jacqueline Onassis, but
It actually was. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And for you, Jason, that people can contact you through Models of Diversity, can't they?
Models of Diversity contacted me. I mean, I have my online presence throughout Facebook and Instagram, and also like Jackie on LinkedIn. So obviously, because I'm separately, they contacted me to be one of the models.
Right, I understand. I beg your pardon. Sorry.
But so I can be reached on Facebook as Jason Archdale, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and what's the one I missed? Insta.
As well. Yeah, brilliant. No
you can
problem.
probably find me on Facebook as well, actually.
Yeah, we're all sort of probably all spread over the internet all over the place, aren't we? So
Yeah.
what's your tips, both of you, for sanity this Christmas? How to deal with the outlaws and things like that? What's your tip on a sane Christmas? Let's just end with the easy questions.
A sane Christmas is just wake up with a smile on your face and enjoy the day. And don't worry if you haven't wrapped a present or given somebody a present. Just be kind and be loving and enjoy your time with your family or friends, whoever you decide to spend Christmas with. And take a breath of fresh air occasionally, even if it's raining, just to enjoy the day.
Yeah, for sure. And for you, Jason, your top tips?
Yeah, listen, every day above ground is a great day. So just say thank you every morning that you wake up. It doesn't matter whether it's Christmas or whatever time of year. Be grateful for every single day. Be kind to yourself. And just, Jackie, you were talking about the activities that people were doing, is to live in the present moment, because when we start living in the past and in the future, that's where the anxiety and the fears come in. So it's about finding something beautiful within the present, and there's always something to find in the present moment.
Yes. That's
and there is always something. There's always something.
Yes, not every day is good, but there's good in every day. And again, it's that law of attraction thing. The more you focus on what's good, then our reticular activation system, our RAS, I like to say because I'm childish, will flag up more and more and more of that. It is a question if we get more of what we focus on. But back to what you were saying, if you really are feeling suicidal, for God's sake, reach out. I had a wonderful therapist, I always shout out this show, Rosie Whetstone. And she's got this lovely ethos, which is hold them, walk with them, release them. So when you're really poorly, she's going to hold you up. Then she'll walk with you and teach you the skills. And of course, when you've mastered it for yourself, you, in the nicest possible way, you no longer need her. And she's done the job. And so she releases you, if you see what I mean. And it's a beautiful ethos, but we can apply that to ourselves.
I think that's what I was talking about earlier, is that suicide or mental health isn't biased. It will hit anybody. Right, but and it's okay to go down that dark place into the rabbit hole. It's okay to be there. What is important is learning the tools from that point. Once we've made the decision, learning the tools on how, and the life-changing tools forever. Because once we've learned these tools, we can implement them every single day. That's not to say that something bad in your life's never going to happen again. But when that bad thing does happen to you again, it's how we can easily deal with it. As opposed to years ago, if you didn't have the tools, that would cripple you.
Yeah, and it's so good. I think one thing we haven't talked about this is prevention, is pre-prevention, which is part of the project which Jackie was talking about. Because if we were taught these tools, let's say at school, when we didn't need them, the hardest thing to do is learn new things when you're in a difficult mental space. When my mum was dying, and I'm trying to learn all the legal things with probate and all the financial things and all of this and all of that and powers of attorney and what's that certificate you sign? Do not DNR. And all, this is complicated shit, right? And learning that when my mind is already grieving, I call it a learning curve at the time you least need it. So conversations like this and advocates like us, hopefully, campaign for more and more and more of pre-prevention. Because if you had those tools, you think, yes, this is bad, but I have my trusty tool belt, rather than going, this is bad, what do I do? So yeah, it's been an amazing show today. It really has been a profoundly brilliant show. Jason Archdale, mental health and suicide prevention speaker. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And have a wonderful Christmas. I would like to invite you back on in the future, though, because we're going to pick your mind and get you to spill some more techniques. I think you've probably got quite a few up your sleeve, right?
I'll be happy to do so. Just
brilliant. Also, Jacqueline Carr, pleasure working with you already, and thank you so much for taking your time out to be on here. As I say, she's a brilliant freelance journalist with a heart as well, and you can find her on LinkedIn. She's a very talented lady. So if this leads to a bit of networking for you, I'm always open to a bit of networking on these shows. So thank you, Jackie, for being on. Lots of love and happy Christmas to you as well. And of course to the lovely Marie, who we had earlier on with her cheeky daughter in the background, who was doing a whole show mainly off camera, unfortunately. But Marie Brown, spokeswoman for Models of Diversity. And if you want to get that calendar, there's the link for it, modelsofdiversity.org/calendar. Some really, really good messages that have come out of the show today. So I thank you both so much for being on. Happy Christmas, and we will see you both again soon.
Happy Christmas.
Thank you. Happy Christmas.
Happy
Thank you for
Christmas.
having us.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye for
Oh,
now.
you're welcome. An absolute joy. Thank you so much. Just me then for the last 5 minutes. Shall we grab my cheeky producer? Oi, Mr. E, get your ass in here. We'll just do a couple of comments. This is important. Kimmy Lashmar, make time for yourself. Great show again today. Thank you, Kimmy. And you make sure you live that too and make time for yourself because you deserve it as well, girl. He said to get all American. Russ Kane, we're taking a Christmas break here on The Daily Show. Thank you to Neil. That's me. Woo! Ken, that's him. Foolish man. Neil, Ken, Phil, Dave, who does the Friday show, to Leslie DeMaza, lovely DeMaza, Chantal Rickards, to our hundreds and hundreds of guests. But most of all, thank you to you, our amazing, supportive, engaged guests all over the world. We will be back in the new year. Oh God, this is the last one of the year, isn't it? I just realised. In the new year, bigger, badder, badasser, I put that word in, and better. Have a wonderful holiday season. I wish you a happy, healthy and successful 2023. Best wishes, Russ. And a round of applause for Russ, who actually started this thing, who saw the need for a radio station all about men's mental health. And it's just got bigger and bigger because 50% of the audience are women, and where men, women, adults, you know, it doesn't matter. Models of diversity, we're all a diverse bunch. But one thing that is a leveler that connects us all, we all have this need, this innate need for mental health, and that is something that no matter who you are, you can't get away from. You know, everyone is equal in that sense. You know, all the what's the metaphor I'm reaching for? I think it was a metaphor like something like everyone's gravestone's the same, which means we're just kind of all equal in that sense. And it was a really funny one because that was the top half of it, and then there was the pictures of the pyramids and the Egyptians saying, "Well, speak for yourself, suckers," which I thought was really funny. That's my weird sense of humor. But listen, have a lovely Christmas. Great job, Neil Long. Thank you, Asa Don Brown. Dude, we've got to get you on this show in 2023. You are a fascinating man, and I wish you and all your family a really happy Christmas as well. And Ken, Asa shouting out his appreciation to you. Kimmy Lashmar as well. We've got 2 minutes, so post your dedications. Let's have a bit of a Christmas jamboree. Let's post your dedications on here. I will be doing some virtual parties over Christmas, just broadcasting a fun party vibe. And if you look at my Facebook, Neil Long DJ, it'll be on there. I'm sure Russ won't mind me giving that a cheeky plug. So if you want a bit of company over Christmas, we're live from the Conservatory, Southwest London's only online nightclub. Come on, post your messages quickly. We'll have a 2-minute jamboree for the last 2 minutes. Christmas messages. Come on, keyboard cowboys, get on it. Talk to me. Talk to me.
What are they talking to you?
I don't know. I think I've lost them, Ken. I've lost the audience. Russ, come back quickly. I've lost the audience.
You picked prematurely.
You just wanted to get the word prematurely on just so you could snigger like a schoolboy, didn't you? To childish idiots that I work with. I can only apologise, everyone. Right, I'm going to make a quick banner then in that case. The caps lock on. Last chance. Oh, Kimmy Lashmart saying, have a great break, everyone. Thank you very much indeed. Happy Christmas 2022 from MRS. There we go. Oh my God. Look who showed up like a bad penny.
2 bloody minutes, you arse.
And I what?
2 minutes I leave you for. And I just leave you for 2 minutes.
Yes.
2 minutes I leave you for, and it's chaos.
Chaos. It's a delicious chaos. I say this with love, mate, but you look really rough. How are you feeling?
God, anyway,
You need whiskey and
I
cigars.
feel like I look. Neil, I want to say something to you. I feel blessed that I've got reunited with you.
Me too.
I feel blessed that we've met up again after many years of not seeing each other.
Yeah.
And
thank you,
and-
Russ. Both me and
and-
Ken
I
have
think
thoroughly enjoyed this.
your contribution to this station has been Ken, not so much, but bless him, little face, his little face. But you know, Neil, I don't often say that, but you've been great, and next year will be even
bigger and better. Maybe some live shows and all that sort of stuff.
Thank you, everybody. Neil,
And thank you for the opportunity. When I turn my healing corner.
Don't thank me. When Howard and I kick this off, you know.
No, I'm going to thank
we
you
didn't
because you
know where
set
it
this
was
up,
gonna
and
go.
you've offered such a great service to millions of people
Well,
all around the world, and you continue to do so. And when I turn my own healing corner,
Okay.
I wanted
On
to
that
give.
note,
I wanted
on
to give
that-
something back, so I am. Here I am doing exactly
you
that.
are-
Happy
and-
Christmas.
and-
Get
and
well
if you-
soon, you
and
silly
also,
sod.
if you kept the receipt for Ken, you can give him back to TK Maxx because I know that's where you got it. I know.
Should we go over there and sort him out? I'm sorry.
At least he didn't say
I
mother
might.
care.
I can't resist, Ken. You just every time I see you, you just set me up.
At least
see
they
you
give you a
go.
laugh.
Goodbye, everybody.
Get well soon. Get well
Yeah,
soon.
I
We'll
hope
have a
so,
whiskey
man.
together.
I hope so.
Yeah, well,
Bless you.
Happy
Bye, gang.
Christmas, everyone. We're a minute late. We got to go. Love you. Hug you.